Hey, everybody, we're back. It's episode 47. We took a little break for the holidays, took New Year's off, had a little lull for a while, but GridCast is back. All right, you guys are going to notice a few changes this year. So we got some feedback last year about the show that maybe we were going a little long because we had that 4-quadrant, format. And what happened was because we were trying to fill each quadrant, the episodes started getting longer and longer. So we're going to switch it up a bit this year. Give us some feedback. What we're looking at doing is basically focusing on the guest, on the interview. You guys told us that's really where the part you liked. When we do analysis and stuff like that, we're going to do it right before the interview, maybe like right now as we roll into the interview. Hopefully you guys are going to like it. And you're going to notice one other change. My co-host, Danny, he's moved on to other projects. The weekly grind, doing the show every week is kind of rough. He's moved out of the area, so hey, you know what? We wish him well, and we're going to see him later on down the road. All right, guys, let's get on with the show. So what we've got this week is the two-time NPGL national champions, head coach of the DC Brawlers, Justin Cotler. So we went up to his home box, CrossFit Dynamix, up just outside of New York, in Astoria, just outside of New York City, in Astoria, New York. And we talked to him about last season. We talked about the season coming up, what he's got planned. We also talked about a little surprise announcement that he got. Before we get into that, though, we want to give him a big shout-out. He and Ashley got married just after last season. He had a hell of a year. We want to give him a big congrats and a shout-out for that. And I'll tell you what, let's just get on into the interview, and we'll see you over there.
We love to lift, laugh, and improve. This is Björk Odinsdatter.
All right, guys, welcome to the GridCast. We are here in Astoria, New York, right outside of Queens, basically Queens, New York.
Queens, yeah, just outside the city.
We're at CrossFit Dynamix with none other than Justin Cotler. Man, needs no introduction to Grid fans, but let's just remind you, what about 2014, 2015 National Pro Grid League champions, head coach of the DC Brawlers.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to see you.
Man, it's great to see you.
Always a pleasure.
This is like number 4 or 5 on this show,
Love
I
it.
think. Yeah.
We
got you
should
all.
keep going. I want to hold the record, okay?
Yeah. We keep trying to convince him to be the co-host, but he's doing too well as a coach. All right. So why are we at CrossFit Dynamix? We came all the way up here to talk about Team Dynamics.
Yeah.
So who is Team Dynamics?
Team Dynamics. We've got Christian Harris. We've got Ian Berger. We've got Dave Charbonneau. We've got Amy Dracup. We've got Becca Day and Miss Andrea Ager. So pretty solid team, some great athletes. People should be familiar with them in the CrossFit and the Grid world.
Right,
so,
and particularly if you're a Grid fan, depending on which teams you root for, you should recognize all those names, every one of them. But Dave is assistant coach on DC Brawlers. Mm-hmm. And Ian was coach of the New York Rhinos and now the general manager.
Yes, exactly.
And all of them incredible athletes in their own rights,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
So first of all, why a super team? Can we call it that?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, I think for us, we kind of look at it a little bit more tongue in cheek. Like, really and truly, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're saying it more out of being fun,
right.
And just kind of.
But you're owning it.
Yeah. Well, listen. The bottom line is these are all great athletes, right? Most of them have been to the CrossFit Games either as an individual or on a team. They're all Grid athletes, obviously, so professional athletes, right? Very experienced veterans. And I think the way that we're looking at it is we want to engage as many fans as we can. We want to engage as many sponsors as we can, and ultimately, we're not shying away from the term.
Right.
We know there are going to be people throwing that term out about us, so why not just own up to it? You know what I mean?
And you got Amy Dracup is from Australia.
Yes.
So that's a huge move.
Huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Ager is from Denver.
Correct.
All right. The other folks are a lot closer.
Becca's Texas.
Becca was Texas.
Yeah.
Right.
Then Dave, Ian, and Christian are local, but they're all local now, right? Everybody has moved here.
So where I'm going with this, though, is how in the heck did you convince these awesome athletes to come here?
Yeah. So, I think I got a pretty strong power of persuasion. So I think that was one. I tend to recruit pretty well. And honestly, it didn't take a ton of convincing. I think basically when Ian and I really were the brainchildren behind this. And, several months back, we talked about the idea of putting a team together for the games, for the game season, I should say. And we started to talk to some people, and obviously Christian was interested, and Amy and Becca were interested, and the last piece of the puzzle was Andrea. And really I just kind of laid out what I felt was possible with this team. And at the end of the day, we have the same goals, and that goal is to win the CrossFit Games. And I think, it wasn't that tough of a sell, and everybody likes each other. We have history. I've coached all of them at some point.
I was going to say, there's background with just about every one of those
athletes.
Yeah,
I mean, I've coached all of them at some point, be it in CrossFit or in Grid, and they all know each other. So, there is a connection there, and they're all veterans, and it made it a pretty easy decision for me to put it together, and I think it made it an easier decision for them to decide to join.
And you mentioned this already, but it's important to point out, like, all these folks legitimately live here in the area, train at this gym. Yeah. We've seen it since we've been here, just observing.
Well, we're here's the bottom line. There are rules you got to follow, right? And we're not going to take the chance that, 3 months down the line that something's going to come up and we get DQ'd. I mean, the bottom line is we're following the rules. We're doing the things we need to do, the necessary documentation, et cetera, because we have goals. And we also respect the rules and respect the sport, and we want to do it right. So without question, we're doing what we got to do.
And it's so looking at this as, of course, all these athletes were athletes long before Grid.
Correct.
But they are all part of the National Pro Grid League in some way or another.
Yes.
Do you think that being a professional athlete or being a part of a professional organization that's a team sport makes a difference now when they circle back and they come back to this?
I think it's huge. I think – a lot of them got their start on CrossFit teams even before Grid, or even before that they got their start on college teams or high school teams, right? So there's experience there. And I think ultimately, being used to being a part of a team and having to have all those personalities, kind of melded into one unit, which is really what we're doing, right? And which is, I think, my specialty. I mean, there's a lot of guys, I think, that are very, great programmers and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it's more than that to be a coach, right? Much more. And really and truly, being able to get the most out of your guys, being able to inspire and being able to put people in the correct positions is really what I feel I excel at. And I think they trust me. And then, the other thing is I think we are now in that stage where we're all kind of getting used to each other, right? We're getting used to that communication.
I mean, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. I mean, this is a couple weeks in.
And what's amazing, though, is, we've been here all day today during practice and the meet and greet with the community in your box, which is an awesome community. Yeah. You already see these athletes working like they've already, and of course some of them have. Yeah. But it's amazing if you're meshing this well in January. Yeah. What's going to happen in June?
No, it's awesome. I mean, without
July,
question.
August.
Yeah, I think there's already a connection there. There's already a bond. The trust is being formed, and the love that we need, as a team, I think, is starting to build really strongly. And what's great is just kind of carrying on the tradition of what we've done here at Dynamix in the past.
Let's talk about the past, because we haven't mentioned that, where this isn't your first rodeo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've been here before.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I really and truly, I feel like part of the reason why I've been as successful in Grid was really because of the background with CrossFit teams, right? So Dynamix, we won the Northeast in 2013, finished 5th at the Games, won the Northeast in 2014, finished 16th at the Games. Last year decided not to have a team. We did our individuals went individual at regionals. Mm-hmm. And
you were a little busy too.
Yeah, a little busy, right?
At the
Grid
Brawlers,
championships and getting married and stuff. But I think I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to build a successful CrossFit team. And I feel like we have some unfinished business at the Games. Finishing 5th and being that close to the podium.
This is about being on the top of the podium.
This is about being on top of the podium, without question. I mean, and not to take anything away from anybody else, but the bottom line is our goal is to win the Games, and we feel we have the talent to do it, and then we got to put it together, and obviously we never know what Dave's going to program, and but we got to be ready for anything.
The real teams show up to win, not just to play.
Yeah,
Right?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, that's the
why you go.
mindset, 100%.
And do you think that, I mean, are we at a stage in the CrossFit Games evolution, particularly with the teams, where this is what you have to do to be, successful at the CrossFit Games? Meaning, not necessarily a super team, but you have to really, really. You're not just going to wing it.
Absolutely.
You're not going to wing it and make it. Maybe in 2010 or 11, not to take anything away from those teams, because they did really well in their own right. But 2012 is when it kind of started, and now it's getting more. I mean, when you look at Froning's team and Kalipa's team and all these folks that are putting people together, I mean, Lindy Barber, another grid athlete, going down to front. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious what's going on, and if you're going to be competitive, and again, if you're going to win, not to play. Then
without question.
Is this what you have to do?
I think so. I mean, I think ultimately this is the way it's going. And I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for the fans. The fans want to see, people who can go out there and really excel. And listen, at the end of the day, what are we trying to figure out? We're trying to find the fittest humans, right? And ultimately speaking, this is what we're putting together. I think, in the past, like you said, and not to take anything away, but really the new era of CrossFit, I mean, the era that we're in now, and of course the era, I mean, it's, it's so short, but really changes every year, But I mean, to think about where we were in 2010 or 11 and think about where we are now, I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's a whole different game.
Oh, it's incredible. And the athletes are a whole different type of athlete. And it's, listen, they're professionals now. I mean, at the end of the day, if this is not your full-time gig, you're not going to be able to excel.
Yeah, I was talking to a company yesterday who was one of our vendors at the gym. I'm not going to say who it was, but we were just talking about sponsorships of athletes, and I was blown away at what now, I'm sure a lot of athletes want to be professional athletes or want some of this money, but there's probably a very few people that actually get this. But we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some people.
Sure, absolutely, and I think it's only going to get more and more, which is awesome. Which is great for the athletes.
Yeah, it's really good for the athletes.
Yeah, it's really good for the athletes.
We need more of that in grid.
We do. Yeah. I mean, we need more of it in functional fitness in general. It's great, but I do think that the opportunity's there, and I mean. I couldn't be more excited about it, honestly. And you saw today with the community, how amazing Dynamix is, and how we, really kind of people around here, they just really attach themselves and they love it, but again, I think his team is global. It's people from all over the place. I think we're going to have a lot of fans, and we look forward to putting on a good show for sure.
Yeah, I think you will. We're going to be looking forward to seeing you in Carson.
Thanks, man.
All right, so we've talked enough about CrossFit. This is a GridCast, not the CrossFit Cast.
Right.
But it was we thought it was important to talk about this team because it's phenomenal. You're a great coach. You've put these people together, and there's a huge connection with Grid.
Yes.
And I think that these athletes will walk away from this experience better Grid players.
Oh, absolutely. Just better athletes in general. Being able to practice and train with each other all the time. Absolutely.
All right. So we talked about Team Dynamix. Next, we're going to talk about DC Brawlers, but we're going to do that after a break for our sponsors because we got to pay the bills. See you in a minute. All right, guys, we're back. We're here with Justin Cotler, head coach of the DC Brawlers and head coach of Team Dynamix.
Yeah, Team Dynamix. That's right. Yeah. It's exciting, man.
Busy man.
I know.
How's married life?
It's good, man. She puts up with my crazy, so I'm a pretty lucky dude.
Those are the best wives in the world.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. She helps out so much. There's no way I'd be able to get this done, everything without her. She's amazing.
It's a team effort, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we talked about Team Dynamix. Now we're going to talk about your other team, the DC Brawlers.
Yeah.
2014-15 NPGL champs.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ended the season. All that matters is the W. You are the champs. But let's talk about, we saw a few things we didn't see the first season, meaning New York, that match.
Yeah.
That was close.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it basically, from what I remember, and you'll definitely remind me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it came down to race 11, I think, and you got Tim Paulson with his
overhead walk and lunge.
Overhead walk and lunges, and he just crushes that thing. And you planned that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But where I'm going with this is, that was really the first time that it was a little off kilter.
That was the first time we were tested down to the last race
Right.
like that. You know, I mean, the championship the year before, San Francisco,
Yeah.
you know, they needed to win that last race to tie us.
Mm-hmm.
New York could have beaten us. You know,
It was close.
And ultimately speaking, you know, I think everybody got a lot better this year. You know, we had that type of match, not just against New York. We also had that match, or type of match against Boston.
Yeah,
Where we had
I was going to talk about them next.
Yeah, we had to show our mettle, and we had to dig deep. We had to brawl. You know, we had to brawl out.
Do you think is it because, just as you just mentioned, the teams are getting better?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
the
learning
athletes
grid.
are getting better. Teams are getting better. I think a lot of people followed our formula after the first year. You know, go out, make sure you get a really strong girl.
I was going to say, what was that? What is the formula?
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, I think, you know, the first year you saw you need to have better specialists.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to have generalists, but you need to have generalists who were still, you know, geared towards one specialty. So you can't have someone who's a straight generalist, right? You need to have someone who's a generalist with a body weight bias, a generalist with a strength bias. You need to have strong females. You need to have great gymnasts. And ultimately speaking, you need to be able to put it together. And you saw this year, I mean, you know, New York's got a bunch of monsters. I mean, there's nobody in the league that can compete with them. You know, strength-wise, when you talk about Wes Kitts, you talk about Nick Block, you talk about EZ, you talk about, you know, they just throw a bunch of mutants at you. No, it's true. I mean, really,
EZ is a mutant.
That's kind of the way that we are on the female side. You know, they just do that, but they've got like 5 guys. You look at them; they're just giants, right? Shepard James, Andrew Rape, McGoldrick. Like,
it just goes on and on.
Keeps going on.
I mean, you could say a lot of the same things about your team, but what's funny about that, though, and I find, you know, it's interesting, is that a lot of the names on your team probably people couldn't rattle off.
No.
Right? When we started,
Yeah.
You went out and recruited the right people for the right sport.
Yes.
Right? I don't think a lot of people understood this sport is different than the other one.
And now I think they do. And I think they understand it. I think the coaching is better. I think that, you know, and I think it's great. I think parity in the league is huge. It makes it more exciting for the fans.
Right.
You know, but
it shouldn't be a blowout every time.
No, it shouldn't be. And, you know, and I think, but at the end of the day, I think what I'm the most proud about, obviously, is the fact that no matter what happens now, we won the first 2. So we are the first dynasty.
Yes.
And obviously we
You're either
going to
love you or hate you.
That's it. And that's fine.
And that's
I'm okay
great for
with
sports.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need that, right? You need the Yankees. You need the Patriots. You need, you know, the Packers back in the day. Like, and we are the first dynasty.
Never the Redskins.
And never
has been.
Well,
Sorry.
the Redskins were pretty good.
Yeah, they were back when I was a kid. Actually, is why I'm a fan.
So I mean, ultimately speaking, though, you know, I think we just were a little bit better than everybody else last year, just a little bit, and that's all we needed to be was a little bit. And then you saw in the final, you know, we were able to control the middle of the match. And Phoenix is awfully good, and obviously at the end we were the snatch herd around the world was huge because, you know, Christian ends up getting hurt in race 10, and we don't finish 11. And if we hadn't won 7, we'd have lost the match. So.
It was a lot closer than probably people really get unless you were there.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's always different when you watch it on TV because they do the production and all that.
Sure.
And that's good. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was close.
Oh, it was close. And I knew, like, that's why I was you saw me freak out at the end of 7 and why we bonused 8 was I knew we had to try to end it as quickly as possible. Like, mathematically, I wanted it over by the end of 9, and luckily we had it done by 9 because if not, we would have ended up losing, especially going into those last 2. Their guys were so good, and Nichols, is, you know, those snatches, those touch and go 270, he's just a freak. You know, I spoke to him the other day on social media with instant messaging. The guy's, I mean, he's just a sweetheart, too. He's a great ambassador for the sport.
He is.
But yeah, I mean, it was an exciting season, man, and
so
we're
2
looking
things
forward
you
to
guys
the
have
next one.
been known well for, I think, is having a good fourth quadrant 4 closers.
Yes.
Right, which you have to have. And I think a lot of people have learned quickly, like, oh, I have to have a closer.
Yeah.
Because like it's going to be heavy.
Yeah, and I feel like we had especially on the female side, I feel like we had the 2 best in the league on the same team. You know,
I don't think anybody would doubt that.
Yeah, so I mean, having those 2 being able to close is huge. And then listen, let's not underestimate how important Elrod was this past year.
I was going to say the other thing that you guys have that I think a lot of teams have but maybe don't exploit well is that middle of the match, middle of, you know, it's the quadrant 2 and 3 that a lot more matches are. A lot more races are won than people realize.
Yeah, our minis.
Right.
I call them our minis, right? Like Jess Malone, Alyssa Ritchie, Ryan Elrod, Nick Del Grand, the minis. They're all 5'6" and under.
And they just
just
rattle it out.
It's incredible. I mean, just the cycle time, the speed, the athleticism, the gymnastics prowess, the body weight prowess. It makes it unbelievable. It makes it unbelievable to watch, but I'll tell you what, it makes it unbelievable to coach. Like being able to give them the rep schemes that you can't even imagine that people be able to do that, but they're able to do it, and it makes the sport so exciting.
And you named off several names, which I think if you go to other teams, and this is I think something they need to take note on, they might have that one name they can throw out. Yeah. They don't have guy, girl, name after name after name, a deep bench, so that you're not wearing that one person out.
No, absolutely. And I think we did a very good job in the draft this past year, putting the middle quads together. We did well in free agency, bringing in Nick, and obviously, we also had Cassidy who helped out with that. And so I felt like we had a very well-rounded team. We also did, and not to pat myself on the back, but the two most important races, right, being races 7 and 11 because they have the most points, especially 7 in the ladder. We didn't lose any portion of the ladder this year, which, I don't know if you'll ever see that again. Right. And that was huge for us. I mean, that's really the reason why we won the New York match, is New York beat us in more races, right? But we won on points.
They won the triads, I think, right?
They won both of the triads,
right?
And they won more total. Like we won 6 races, they won 5, but we won the ladder 4-0,
which is more points.
And we won the final. We won race 11. Which is more points. So you put that together, and we end up winning the match.
There's a lot more strategy that goes in, I think, than most people understand.
So much strategy.
Yeah, I can't wait till we have a lot more data and a lot more stats to kind of go off, and people are going to enjoy seeing that. What do you look for? Because we're going into free agency. It's going to happen here anytime. Yeah. And we're going into the the draft season, if you will. We're probably going to have a combine or something of that nature. They haven't announced that yet, but I know they're working on it. Yeah. So, what are the DC Brawlers? So we've talked about last season. Yeah. What are we doing this season?
Yeah, I think we have some holes we want to fill. Which is crazy to say. Won the championship for 2 years, but you have some holes you want to fill. Right. We'll have Christine Ondali coming off of the reserves because she was injured, tore her Achilles last year. I think you're going to see she's going to be a monster. Gymnastics, and she's very well-rounded. Former gymnast, but she's also very strong and fast. And then I think we'll probably look for another generalist, but with a strength bias on the female side. Mm-hmm. We may look to maybe do a trade or two. Honestly, I have my eyes set on a couple of people, so we'll see. We'll maybe shop that around. And then on the male side, I think without question we need a hoss. We need a big weight mover. We need somebody who's just a brute, because we got a lot of strong guys, but we got a bunch of strong guys who are more finesse guys who can still do everything else, like Christian and Ken. Yeah,
I mean those guys are ridiculously strong.
Right. But they can do everything else.
Right.
We need somebody, I think, who's just your, and I hate to say there's nobody like Danny Nichols, but we need a guy who, and Danny can do everything too, but I mean, you watch that final, the way he handled the flipper, the way he handled.
Nobody else flipped it.
There's just no.
They turned it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he just kind of whipped it.
100%. Yeah. And we need somebody who can do that. So I think without question, we're going to be looking to try to find a guy who can really move some weight fast.
So a lot of our fans, a majority of our fans are amateur level grid athletes, or and at that level of athlete, a lot of them are. Sure. So I like to always ask when I have coaches on the show, if you were to tell them 2 or 3 things that they really needed to think about, figure out, focus on to move to that next level, what would you give them advice as a coach?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is, especially in grid, the fact that we're allowed to use specialists. Don't shy. To compare it to CrossFit, simply, that's what we do. But in CrossFit, being a generalist, being good at everything. Now, obviously, in grid, you don't want to have huge glaring weaknesses. But at the end of the day, get really, really good at the stuff that you're good at. I mean, honestly,
Right.
if you can move weight, just get unbelievably good at it. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're not, then, we're not going to be able to use you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I want people, if you have a body weight prowess, get unbelievably good at cycling muscle-ups, at cycling handstand push-ups, at running on your hands, at chest-to-bars, at all those things. Because at the end of the day, you look at a guy like Elrod, or you look at, somebody like an Alyssa Ritchie or Jess Malone, they're so invaluable in the league, right? And the same thing goes for the, barbell movers, like a Becca or like a Taylor.
So how do you train for that?
Without question, you've got to get on the correct type program. You got to get on grid programming. I mean, it's definitely different, right? A lot of interval training, a lot of short explosive stuff, followed by very short intermittent rest. Being able to go ham sandwiches on something for 15, 20 seconds, then getting out, then doing it, resting for 30 seconds, and then doing it again.
It's not a 20-minute AMRAP.
No, it's not. And ultimately speaking, you really need to figure out how to increase that power output and that work capacity in that 30-second range, as opposed to doing it in a 5-minute range. About 5 minutes, the race is over. So, we want people who really understand speed. You got to move faster than you've ever moved before, and ultimately speaking, that's the way you got to practice.
Thanks, Coach. So, look, how's it going to feel? Same year, podium finish.
Yeah.
Top of the podium.
Yeah.
Right, and hold that grid trophy again.
That's the goal.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Are those the New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, those are the New Year's resolutions.
All right, well, we hope to see you there.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the show again.
Thank you.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the show. And now,
clean up your jerks and snatches.
Drink your beer in batches.
And always dominate your grid matches.
We'll see you next time.